This is Marriage on the Half Shell, Raw and Exposed. Tonight we're going to do what's basically an addendum to the last podcast we did, we talked about submission.
Right.
Which we understand can be controversial. It shouldn't be, but it can be. That word can have a lot of negative connotations, and
we talked about the culture
yes.
makes it a negative.
Yes.
But in reality, we submit all the time.
Yeah. Right.
To various people in authority in the context where they have authority.
Right.
Like your boss or the police or something like that. But we talked about how husband and wives submit to each other.
Right.
And they generally make decisions together about whatever's going on in the family and so on. So there isn't any kind of ruling over you kind of stuff.
Right.
Right. So we just thought of a couple of examples that prompted me to want to just, do this quick addendum, and then we'll talk about the future plan for the next episode.
Yep.
Right. So we went away for our anniversary, and we were driving around, and
we were in unfamiliar territory.
Right? And I was asking you to switch to my phone to bring up maps.
Yeah.
Because your phone was acting really slow, and here I am just driving, not knowing where I'm going, and you kept fooling around with your phone.
Yeah.
And I guess you say I got a little frustrated.
You sounded a little frustrated, yeah.
Because
I wasn't moving fast enough, and we're in a car going 60 miles an hour, and we're not sure which exit we're supposed to. It was kind of a mess, a little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, so that just prompted me to remember this, we were in a car, so whoever's driving is in charge.
Yeah.
Right? And everyone else submits to the driver because the driver is responsible for everyone's safety. Mm-hmm. Right? And I used to tell my kids this when I was teaching them how to drive. It's like, when you are driving, you are the god of the car. Everyone submits to you. And if they won't put their seatbelts on, then you don't go anywhere. Right? For instance, or something, if they get rowdy, you can pull over and they have to stop.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're responsible for their safety. It's the same thing for an airline captain in a flight, or a captain of a ship, whether it's in the Navy or a merchant ship or the Coast Guard or a 26-foot boat. If you're the driver with some passengers, you are in charge because you're responsible.
Right.
So, I don't know where we went with that, but so we just gave like an example. Do we have, I don't know if there's other examples that we could bring up, but I can generalize. We were talking about like instances where you have more knowledge about something or more experience or whatever in some area, and I'll submit to what you say.
Right.
And vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, we're about to enter that very busy week of we're having these type of negotiations right now.
Right.
We are in the process of baking our son's wedding cake, which is it's a huge task.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a lot of standing in the kitchen and mixing, and we have to adjust ingredients and adjust the recipe so that we get the right amount of cake, and so there's a lot of negotiating back and forth.
Right.
And there's stuff that I know about baking, more about baking, and there's stuff that so this is where the negotiation will come in.
Yeah, and we'll negotiate. And
yeah.
When you say this is the way this needs to be, then I go with that.
Right.
And if I say this is the way, this is where I want to go with the cake, then you'll go with that.
Yeah.
So that's one an example of that, where depending on the context, one of us has more skills, more knowledge, and we'll go back and forth, and it's easy. We know.
Yes.
We don't have to worry about. I think it's just an ego thing if you're just trying to be in charge all the time.
It really is.
You know,
it really is.
And if you're that insecure, maybe that's part of it. It's like
work
I
on
think
that.
It might indicate an insecurity where I can be secure submitting to you in whatever context.
Right.
Anyway, so that being said, I thought we'd just throw those out there. And also, we wanted to get this out. We just got back from a trip.
Right.
We're, like you said, we're getting ready to go to the wedding. Our son is getting married this coming
next
weekend.
week. Yeah.
Coming up, so we'll be getting ready for that.
Yep.
And then after that, I think we'll record the next full episode.
Yes.
You remember more than I do what we were going to talk about.
We've had some encounters with some couples over the last few months. Two specifically that have been married as long as we have. We're about to celebrate 33 years. And unfortunately, these couples that we've encountered are not happy with each other, and their marriages are not going well. And there's some very specific reasons why that is happening, but we'd also like to talk about how do you come back from that?
Yes.
How do you recover your marriage so that you can continue? These two couples, because they've been married as long as we have, they're empty nesters now, which can either add another layer of enjoyment because you've built your marriage and you want to do things together now that you maybe weren't able to do because you had kids, right? Or it can add another layer of misery because you're now with this person all the time and you don't have the kid buffer.
And you no longer feel like, a lot of people stay together for the kids.
Yes.
It's like, that's noble in a sense.
Sort of.
In a sense. But if you were working on your marriage in the first place, then you won't be worried about staying together for the kids. It'll be for you, which makes a more stable family, even for the kids.
Yes, it does. Right. Even though they're adults and moved out and everything.
But when they're younger, if your marriage is strong, they're more secure.
Yeah.
We talked about that, I think. But then once they're adults, you don't freak them out.
Well, it's not just that.
You want to be a bad example by
you
splitting
want to be a good
up.
example.
You really do want to be a good example.
Yeah.
And you don't want to start all over, go through the pain, and don't think it's easy. It's a pain, and it's expensive, and it's going to hurt you if you go through the divorce.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so much better to obviously the best would be to be working on it all the time.
Right.
But if you find that one of you or both of you are I'm just unhappy.
We're going to talk about that.
And we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
There are things you can do to come back from that and refocus.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be the next episode. I guess we'll record it
2 weeks.
We'll record it in 2 weeks and then post it either that weekend or the weekend after.
Right.
So that's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Marriage on the Half Show. We're out of here.